Hi, I'm Vince. I always played sports growing up. I played hockey, but I just couldn't stick with it. I played basketball, but I didn't want to mesh around anymore. I even played baseball, but I had to stop because I have a fear of bats. In all seriousness, I always defined myself as just an athlete until someone sat me down and asked me, Vince, who are you beyond what you do? And boom, all of my identities shattered. And since then, I've dedicated my life's work to guiding athletes to discover who they are beyond what they do. Because sometimes we forget what's underneath all of these titles and accomplishments. And it starts at an early age. Last year, I was coaching my 4-year-old cousin's soccer game. And all the parents show up, they've got their fold-up chairs, they got their coffee, kids are running in circles, bumping into each other, and then the game starts. I got a kid over here strategically picking dandelions. I got a kid over here stopping in the middle of a play just to hug his opponent. Then we're on a breakaway, and we kick the ball and we completely miss. But sure enough, the goalie on the other team picks up the net and shifts it over just so that we would score. It was beautiful. But as the game went on, I started to notice that some kids were getting really upset. They would pout and cry as they would come off to the sideline. I started to observe this was because parents were only cheering when they would either kick the ball or score. And I'm looking at these kids going, they don't care about kicking the ball. They just want to be cheered for and loved. So this is when the intention of the game completely shifted from playing for the love of the game to playing for the love of those watching. I've been that kid. At age 4, I learned when I throw a ball, I will be loved. At age 8, I learned when I get good grades, I will be loved. And as a teenager, I learned when I make a pun, I will be loved. And slowly I started to learn who I was based on what gave me the most love and validation from others. This is what I call an identity. And the identities I put on became stronger and more complex as the years went on. Soon I had to dress a certain way just to feel accepted. Then I had to impress my boss just to feel appreciated. Soon I had to say what others wanted me to say just to feel valued. And all of a sudden, I've morphed my entire being into doing everything for everyone else but myself. And this process took me years to reverse. And so what I've done is I've taken my life learnings, I've packaged them up, and I've helped thousands accelerate this process within themselves. And in June of 2017, I had my toughest client, my dad. It's for Father's Day, and I asked him, I said, Dad, I'm not going to buy you anything. Just block off some time. I'm going to take you out for lunch. I'm going to take you through an exercise that I take my athletes through, answering the question, who are you? So the day comes. He's got his binder filled with paper, different colored pens, a nice childlike grin on his face, just so fired up to spend some time with me. And so we get to this restaurant, and we sit down in this corner, and I ask him, Dad, who are you? And he starts to confidently write. And over the course of an hour, he starts to share with me, Vince, I'm a father. I'm a teacher. I'm a husband. I'm a cook. And he was very stubborn about defining himself as his titles. And I said, yeah, Dad, those are all great. But if those were all branches to your tree, what would be at the root of your tree? And he said, easy, helping people. And I was like, Dad, that's great. But what do you have inside here that allows you to help people? And he looked down at the paper, and then he looked up at me, and he said, love. So I said, Dad, who are you? He said, I am love. And then he started to cry. Here was this 68-year-old man who had been living into all of these identities his entire life, laboring for the love of everyone else around him, only to realize that the love he was craving from others has been inside of him this entire time. 6 weeks later, I get a phone call from my mother. She says, Vince, you need to come home. Your father's had another heart attack. And so I rush home, and I spend his final days with him in the hospital while he's completely unconscious. And I remember a moment where I held his hand, and I looked him in the eyes, and in that moment I realized I wasn't going to be left with the father. I wasn't going to be left with the cook, and I wasn't going to be left with the teacher. but I will always be left with his love. My father was a beautiful, beautiful man, and he was so generous with his love, but he didn't leave much for himself. And I strongly believe that if he gave himself even a fraction of the love that he gave to everyone around him, that he would still be here today. I believe the love we seek from others is the same love that exists inside of us. Sometimes we just need to lift up our titles, labels, and accomplishments to find it. See, for me, now instead of relying on throwing a ball, making a punt, or impressing my boss to get love, I get it from looking in the mirror. Hey, Vince. What's up? You're my best friend, and I love you. You see, I believe I define my love. I define my life, and therefore I define my legacy. So when I look down, I'm the only one who needs to read it. So let me ask you, who are you underneath all of your identities? My name is Vince, and I am love. Thank you.